Welcome back to the Fountain Hills Dark Sky Virtual Festival. We hope you have an adequate supply of food and drink nearby because you're not going to want to leave your screen for these upcoming series of presentations.
No kidding. We have a great lineup for you. You know, our presenters from the actual festival were kind enough to record their presentations so we could share them all with you virtually.
That's right. And first up, we have Dr. Mario Motta, a fellow with the American College of Cardiology, who has been active in light pollution issues for more than 30 years. His presentation is entitled Adverse Health Effects of Light at Night.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mario Motta. I am a cardiologist and currently a trustee of the American Medical Association. I've been involved with light pollution issues for quite a long time, and am the principal author of the AMA's position on LED street lighting. I wish I was there in person, but of course, with the current COVID health crisis, we are taping this instead. This is my home observatory, and I enjoy it quite a bit. This is the original reason why I got involved in light pollution many years ago. As many of you are, I'm an amateur astronomer as well. This is my homemade telescope. It's a 32-inch f6. I use it quite a bit. So naturally, I am very much interested in preserving the night sky. Many years ago, I realized that there's far more to light pollution than just observing the night sky. As a researcher and cardiologist, I became convinced by the research articles by many people, including Richard Stevens, who first proposed light at night causes harmful human health effects way back in 1987, that this can be a significant health risk. And over the years, I've read and been involved with many light pollution control efforts from a human health perspective. I'm a practicing cardiologist, associate professor of medicine at Tufts, had been on the Council on Science and Public Health for 8 years, and then got elected to the AMA Board of Trustees, and that's where I currently serve. Let's talk about melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that's produced by essentially just about every creature on the face of the earth. It's important in human health. This is its chemical structure. It's a hormone produced by the pineal gland and related to daily rhythm. It is very low during the daytime when we're awake and rises at night when we sleep. It affects mood and depression if it's altered. It is effective and related to reproduction. It helps inhibit many cancers, especially hormonal cancers, and I'll explain the reason for that later. Light pollution affects human health in many ways. It affects circadian rhythm by the acting on the expression of melatonin as we sleep. It is related to sleep disturbances. Depression of melatonin has been linked to elevated childhood leukemia. Glare creates dangerous driving conditions, and excessive light pollution harms our natural environment. This is the human eye. We're all familiar with that. Behind the eye is a lens, which you can see right here. As we age, the lens starts to calcify. That is because there are no blood vessels within the lens, and it grows like an onion as we get older. The central areas eventually are deprived of oxygen and start to calcify. That leads to cataracts eventually. Because of this and other age-related effects, as we age, we're affected by what we call disability glare. So when we're young, at age 20, it takes 2,000 Lamberts of light to make us feel that we cannot see well. It's called disability glare. By the time you're age 60 or beyond, as I am, I'm 68, it doesn't take much at all to create this problem because of these microcalcifications that eventually become cataracts. That's why older people don't see as well at night. It's not their vision, quite frankly, it's bad lighting. Here's a perfect example of why bad lighting can affect safety. So here is an intersection, and as you look down the road, because of this bright glare bomb, which right now is still required at every intersection, your pupils constrict, and therefore you cannot see beyond where the light goes. Unfortunately, there's a person there stepping just 5 feet forward, and you can easily see why you would hit a deer or, God forbid, a person if you're driving along and can't see because of that light. It would actually be safer if that light wasn't there. At the very minimum, you should use proper amount of lighting rather than this overlighting and proper shielding, and you will eliminate this safety problem. In addition to glare, excessive lighting affects human rhythm of hormonal release. As it turns out, not too long ago, in 2003, it was discovered that there is a blue-sensitive special cell in the retina that is not involved with vision at all. It's involved in the sleep-wake cycle. So where most of the nerves from the human eye go to the back of the brain where our vision center is, this special blue-sensitive area called IPRGC goes only to the pineal gland. And that is not involved with vision. It's involved with waking us up. Release of that suppresses melatonin and activates the limbic system, which wakes us up. That is the reason, and it's easy to see why this would involve. Before we had electric lights, once the sun rises and you see a blue sky, you need to be awake to be alert. This is what this system does. However, in our modern times, if we have high blue at night, our limbic system never shuts down, and our hormonal production of melatonin never rises. This is a blue LED. This is typically what is used in all lighting. The reason is it's high energy lighting, and what is generally done is it's coated with a phosphor, kind of like a phosphorescent light. It absorbs the blue and then re-radiates it at a lower wavelength. That's how you get a white light. There is no such thing as a current, at least not currently, there is no such thing as a white LED. Because of that, depending on the manufacturer, there can be quite a bit of blue leakage, some more than others. Fortunately, lighting manufacturers have gotten better and better, but there are still many LEDs manufactured with excessive blue. They should be avoided. So a 5000K LED simply refers to the amount of blue light that gets emitted by the LED. 2700, it's much less blue. And an amber LED, which is a rather new development, emits no blue whatsoever. That would be the ideal solution. At the very minimum, we should be able to go to 2000 to 2700 LEDs, and that would limit the amount of blue exposure that we have. We need that. This 19-watt LED replaces a 60-watt high-pressure sodium, which was previously used in my hometown. Even these give more light than the original high-pressure sodium. We need to avoid overlighting. Here is a typical 3000K LED setup. As you can see, it's well lit and the colors are perfectly fine. Consequently, the alarmists who say that 3000 or 2200 LED is not sufficient because of color, look at this and clearly see that's not the case. By the way, high pressure sodium, which is what we have been used to all these years, is 1800 correlated temperature. Therefore, even 3,000 or 2,700 LEDs are far whiter than what we've been used to. Here's an example of why this is important. Blue LED keeps us awake and is bad for the environment. If you follow the yellow line, you can see that what you really want is light here. This is where your useful vision is. This high blue spike, all it does is distract you. Think of those really blue, bright car headlights when they're coming at you and blind you. That's these kind of lights. They don't serve any useful purpose other than blind you. This is the color and light that you want. 3000K is the green. As you can see, the blue is much reduced from the 4000 and 5000 LED and gives you a good amount of useful light. 2700 reduces it even more and is more useful. In addition, blue scatters more, so it can be seen far further away, affecting our environment. Every animal on Earth needs dark, and this is affecting our ecosystem in a very deleterious way. Here is an example of the different lights I'm talking about. 6000K is way too blue, 4000K is still way too blue, 2700 is white. Okay, it just has a slight yellowish tinge compared to 4000K, which is actually very good because that keeps us from squinting. The eye is extremely sensitive to too much blue. Here is human sensitivity to circadian rhythm. As you can see, it's right exactly where blue-rich LEDs peak. This is what we want at night. This is useful vision for night vision. And you notice the hump is what we want. And any way we can get this blue spike down decreases glare and increases useful vision. These are the blue hazard lights. And if you look at the red, those are the typical halogens. The green is a warm LED spectrum. As you can see, the blue is much reduced. And this is daylight, by the way. Why did the AMA get involved with this? We're certainly not a lighting organization. As I was on the board, on the Council of Science and Public Health, I had an opportunity, hopefully, to do some good. And I proposed that we come up with a statement. I got some of the world's best researchers together, and we wrote a statement. The initial one in 2012 regarding health effects, and the subsequent one in 2016 specifically on LEDs. The AMA is not a research organization, but we have a public health function, and that's where this comes from. I also was on the board of the IDA, and of course, same mission. The AMA is a membership organization and not a research organization. 2009, AMA, my urging, adopted a resolution that we shield all street lighting to avoid glare. 2012, we passed a human health report that's 35 pages long that summarized the world's best literature at the time. And in 2016, our report on LED lightings came out. The 2009 resolution was basically to save energy and to prevent glare for drivers. Here it is, and that remains our policy. Again, it's very simple. It simply says lights should be shielded and glare should be eliminated. That's our policy number, still active. 2012 came along, and I was able to get some very respected researchers to help me write a report. I was basically a glorified editor. The research was from these following: David Blask from Tulane, George Brainerd from Thomas Jefferson Medical School, Ronald Gibbons, who is an engineer at Virginia Tech, Stephen Lockley at Harvard, and Richard Stevens, who started all this back in 1987. He's an epidemiologist. sad to say he passed away this past year, but he was the one that got the ball rolling and first alerted to the world the issue of excessive light pollution affecting human health. This report had 3 resolutions: that we limit any light that disrupts sleep, especially in children. That led to companies such as iPhone to cut down their blue at night, by the way. It all came from this report. It said we should do more research and supports the need to reduce glare. This is now scientific fact. If anyone out there disputes any of the above, well, in 2017, the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine went to Hall, Rosbach, and Young for their discovery of the molecular mechanisms for controlling circadian rhythm. So anyone who complains to me why the AMAs get involved with this, I simply point to the fact the Nobel Prize Committee also thought it was pretty important. The World Health Organization obviously feels the same way. They rated night light pollution as a carcinogenic risk. That may sound strange, and let me explain just a bit. First of all, light doesn't cause cancer. That's not what is being said. However, light suppresses melatonin. Melatonin is an adjuvant that helps in the body repair processes at night when you sleep. Melatonin stimulates human T cells and killer cells. These are white blood cells that flow through the bloodstream and kill any abnormal cells, such as bacteria, but also carcinogen type cells. We produce millions and millions of new cells every day. Some of them occasionally will divide incorrectly and be a cancer cell. They get quickly knocked out by the body's immune system. If your immune system is not working well, or it's not at peak efficiency because you don't produce enough melatonin, then a few of these cancer cells might slip through, which is why you have a slightly increased risk of hormonal cancers when you don't have proper rest and when you don't have proper melatonin function. I hope that explains that. Anything more would be a medical lecture, and we're not here for that right now. This is a paper, I'm a cardiologist. We wrote a paper in Cancer Journal in 2013 that explained all of the above. Why the 2016 report on LEDs? The reason is because despite what I thought was an excellent paper in 2012, which many businesses, such as I said, Apple used, the IES, which is the Illuminate and Engineer Society, basically kept pushing 4,000 and even 5,000 K LEDs, which are excessive blue. And in fact, they wanted to relight the entire country with these high LED lights. This would have been a disaster. Consequently, because of lack of motion by them, I felt we needed a strong report that advised municipalities what is proper lighting before every light got changed to a high blue LED. Consequently, we published a report that advised 3,000 K or less. Now, this is 2016, which means I dealt with papers prior from 2015 and beyond. And at those times, 3,000 K was the best lighting we had available. Nowadays, I would opt for 2,700 or 2,400 if you can get it, or even amber LEDs that has no blue. We had 126 peer-reviewed papers. That's how you get something through the AMA. It has to have strong science behind it, and that's how this got published. The AMA policy basically says that we support conversion to LED lighting because it reduces energy consumption and decreases use of fossil fuels. We minimize blue-rich light whenever possible and reduce glare. No one had a problem with that. However, the third resolve, which is also our policy now, encouraged 3,000 K or lower, as I mentioned. This stated that all lighting should minimize blue and be as low blue as possible. That led to incredible resistance by the lighting community. We had a immediate release, here it is, to the press, and the IES did not take kindly to the AMA telling them what is proper lighting. Many companies had invested heavily in the high blue lighting and were not very happy about it. For example, in Chicago, they were prepared to replace all 275,000 lights with 4,000K. When the AMA report came out, they stopped, paused, took 3 months to reconsider and do their own research. And, well, they decided we were right, and they rewrote their proposal demanding 3,000K or less. Needless to say, the lighting company that was opposed to sign a contract was not very happy. So we looked at numerous studies. One of them was the 110,000 woman nurses study, and that showed a 14% increased risk of breast cancer. Now, breast cancer is multifactorial. Some is genetic, some is environmental, but a fraction of it is due to suppression of hormone of melatonin. Another study more recently came out in 2017, 2017, from Harvard, reproduced the above. And so now we have 3 different studies that all show basically the same thing. This is now established science, not supposition. Sleep research. Cut down on your sleep and you don't get as much melatonin. You have increased sleepiness during the daytime and increased health effects. Glare. Let's get back to that for a moment. LED are point sources and they're very painful to the eye, as anyone who's seen bright headlights come at them can attest. So human eye tolerance is 50,000 nits, and the average LED in the street is far more than that. That's why they should be shielded. Glare response, disability and discomfort, the reduction in situational awareness and age-related impacts. We talked about that. Here is an experiment from Europe with a human eye cadaverized and measured the scatter of light. As you can see, blue light scattered far more. This is a log scale, by the way, so it's actually a much greater amount than this. But blue light versus red light scatter. That's why blue light causes disability glare and red light does not as much. The older you are, the greater this effect. Here is another example of acuity. Many lighting companies make the absurd statement that they need high blue LED because it makes you see better. Here's 5,000K versus in green 3,000K. There's a negligible difference. It's not measurable, and humans cannot tell the difference when tested. At 2,500, it's still not very noticeable. It finally shows up at 1,800, which is what we're using now with high-pressure sodium. Here is a shopping center near my home that used 3,000K lighting. The color rendition is quite good. Many cities were starting to transition to 4,000K. Queens, New York was one of the early adopters. And as you can see, it's harsh glare and not very comfortable to live next to. Here is a typical light. Here is the high blue. And if you live near one of these, you want to get blackout curtains. And that is what many lighting companies are saying, well, just buy blackout curtains. Well, my response to that is, why should every one of us buy blackout curtains for an engineering problem that they're creating? The public outcry in New York City was so great that even in New York City, which is one of the worst light polluted areas in our universe, they demanded lower K lighting, and the rest of the conversion went over to 3,000K with much less complaints. People prefer the warmer colors. Davis, California, initially put up 4,000 K lights. Citizens hated them. They had a town meeting and they demanded that they be taken down. When the city complained that that would cost money, they actually voted themselves a tax increase to pay for it. That's how much 4,000 K lights are hated. You don't understand until you live near them just how much they're disruptive to the night. When's the last time you heard of people voluntarily increasing their taxes to redo lighting? That's how bad it is. Monterey, city in California, sued their own city because they wouldn't listen and they went ahead and put up the wrong lights. More recently, in the summer of 2019, the city of Seattle, which in 2013, one of the early adopters, went to 4,000 K. There were so many citizen complaints all these years that they just voted to take all of them down and replace them with 2,700 K lighting. Again, this is how much 4,000 K lights are hated. So my response to lighting engineers and to lighting companies and to every municipality is, don't make these mistakes. You will live to regret it. Your citizens will rebel, and it will cost you more money in the long run. Put up the correct lighting to begin with. We talked about this already, but again, the higher the K, the more blue there is. What you want is a low blue and high useful light, and that generally is 2,700 or less. Some engineers have complained to me. I get lots of email from them, by the way. Not all of it complimentary. Most of it deals with my own business, but complaints saying, well, the moon is blue. It's 4,000 K. Well, that's what they claim, and this is my response. I always send them a slide. Here is moonlight in the blue. And the reason it looks like sunlight to some extent is because it reflects the sun, of course. Here is a 4,000 K LED. The engineers point to this part and say it matches the moon spectrum, and I always point to this part and say, well, what about this? This is not in natural moonlight. So when you hear that the moon is 4,000 K, now you know the truth. Yes, in general, for most of it, but not on the blue side. That is an actual spectrum of the moon. Then there is detection of distance, and some lighting engineers will say, well, you need it to see further down the road. Well, as it turns out, that's been studied by Alan Lewis and Ron Gibbons, competent engineers. Ron Gibbons is at University of Virginia Tech. And if you're looking down the road, it makes no difference whatsoever. The only time it makes a difference is if you're 21 feet offset, meaning you're looking this way. And if you're looking that way, you shouldn't be doing that because you're driving this way. So useful lighting on the road, it makes no difference. Let's get on to the environment. Other reasons why lighting is important. It's basically blue lighting is toxic to the environment. And I don't say that lightly, but there are numerous studies, well over 1,000 now, that show that lighting is deeply disruptive to every animal on Earth. It even affects certain plants. I'll give you one example, even though there are numerous ones I can give that I find astounding. So in Northern California, I forget the town, but it has a place called the Sundial Bridge near the coast and near the Oregon border. And there's a stream that goes upstream that used to have salmon going up it. A few years back, someone thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if we put a whole bunch of white lights on the bottom of the bridge? It had nothing to do with the top of the bridge. As you can see, you don't even see them on the bridge. They just, quote, would look pretty from a distance. Unfortunately, a funny thing happened. The Chinook salmon used to run up the river. In 2005, before they put up these lights, this was the average count of salmon that went up the river. 2009, the LED lights were installed, which are 4,000 K, by the way. By 2011, in just 2 years, the salmon population was essentially wiped out. It turns out salmon, for some reason, will not go under a bridge that has 4,000 K lighting. They've since eliminated that lighting during the salmon run, and you should just take it down, of course, and the salmon population is back. Blue light at night is bad for wildlife, whether on land, in the water, or in the air. This is number of bird deaths by high lighting towers. Lights kill birds over and over again. I don't know how many people have been to Las Vegas that have that high intensity blue light that comes out of the pyramid there. But the dirty secret is every morning they have to sweep dead birds off the sidewalk before people get there, because of birds that are attracted to it. They get exhausted and basically fall dead. Turtles, Southeast Florida, turtle population was decimated. They wasted a number of years looking for toxins or poisons that were killing them. Well, it turns out it was the lights. People buy a house near a beach, and for some reason, many people think it's just pretty to shine a light on the water needlessly all night long. Turtles hatch. They're programmed to go to the brightest source of light, which normally is during full moon on the water. With bright lights, instead they go to the house in the street, and they all die off. So by simply passing a law that you cannot shine a light on the beach all night, the turtle population is coming back. Insects. We're in an insect apocalypse right now. 40% of all species are dying off, and we're going to have mass die-offs of insects. How many people have seen fireflies? Fireflies used to be very common growing up. I rarely see one now, and I'm not in a terribly light polluted area, which is unfortunate because they're very sensitive to lighting. Any lights, the male and female fireflies don't see each other because of light pollution, and therefore no baby fireflies. And the same thing with many other insects. So environmental impact from light at night. It affects soybean growth. It affects crop yields. It affects trees. Trees get stressed by light. They need dark at night as well. And an average tree near bright lights only live half as long as a tree not near a bright light. Who would have thought? Insects affects their reproduction, pollination. Birds affects migration and foraging. Good news is there's an organization called FLAP, F-L-A-P, that began in Toronto, Canada, and it got many cities, including Chicago and many cities along the East Coast. During the bird migration route, at least, they cut the lights down, tall skyscrapers, and that's helping prevent some bird deaths while they migrate. Fish, predation, reproduction, and life cycle, as I mentioned with the salmon. Faint sky glow affects 60% of invertebrates and 30% of vertebrates. There's a great quote by Nature in January of 2018 by Travis Longcorf. He's from California, University of California, and he's a world-renowned researcher. And he completed that paper with the following quote: "If a lighting environmental effect on a particular species has not yet been documented, it's probably because it has not yet been studied. In every case where a study has been performed, an effect has been determined." Let that sink in for a moment. Basically, every time a species is studied and they compare its effect at night, there is an effect. Be it plant, insect, bird, animal. This is an environmental nightmare if we let this go on. Human food pollination. If we kill off all the insects and birds to help pollinate our plants, we're going to have a food chain collapse. 40 million bird deaths are estimated to die from artificial light at night. Nocturnal visits to fruit trees are affected. Again, another nature item. Mayflies are attracted to blue-rich light sources. Here is a bridge over the Susquehanna River. These are all mayflies. They should be in the water reproducing and becoming fish food. Instead, they're now piled up under one light on the bridge. Same thing on the gas station down below. The Lighting Illuminating Society, Engineering Society, I gave a talk to their annual meeting in March of 2018. And since then, they spent a year studying the issue and they finally come around. This is their latest recommended practice. It's called RP 818. It came out in August of 2018 after my talk. And I'm happy to say that their latest recommendation is 3,000 K or less. And that is a major change from the years before when they were constantly demanding the AMA retract their paper. They don't ask for that anymore. So I think we've won. We're all on the same page at this point. Unfortunately, many lighting engineers may be using old copies of this. In fact, I was asked to talk at a town where a lighting engineer was using one from 2010, 10 years out of date. And I had to point out to him his own engineering society says that what he is promoting is wrong. So be aware of this and don't be afraid to speak up and demand that lighting engineers you hire are up to date. Here's the current proposals. It's 3,000 K. I still disagree with a couple of areas where they are allowing 4,000 K because I think that contributes to glare, but for the most part, they are now on board, which is a welcome change. Cities are on board now too. These are all the cities that are 3,000 K or lower. Should add Seattle to that mix now. Here's the states with light pollution laws. Some are stronger, some are less. Hawaii, for example, demands zero blue. They're using blue filtered lights. Some are very weak. Maine, Arizona, I'm happy to say, has some pretty good laws. You just got to make sure you get them enforced. So we're slowly winning this battle. Here is 3,000 K. Color is fine. Any lighting engineer that tells you that lower K doesn't give you good color rendition, just show them a picture. This is Washington, D.C. I was just there for a meeting recently, and Washington had very terrible lighting, and I see that they recently put up lights that I had suggested. In fact, there was a direct letter to their city council when they were asking what type of lights to use. I will stop there. Normally I would ask for any questions at this point, but of course we're not live at this point, so that's unfortunate. Maybe someday I'll get to talk in person with your group. I understand it's doing a great job, and I commend your community for being on the right side. But if you do have questions, I'm happy to answer any email. My email is mmotta@massmed.org. I have a website, mariomottand.com, and I have Facebook at Dr. Mario Motta. Happy to answer any questions. I'll leave that up for a moment. And I missed the questions and answers since that usually is quite lively in most of my talks. Any good astronomy talk should end with good astro photos. So this is NGC 4565, which I've taken from my observatory. This is M81, and here is the Crab Nebula M1. I do a fair amount of astronomy. That's still my first love. All right, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I hope you enjoy this talk.
Many thanks to our Galaxy sponsor, Toll Brothers. Our star sponsors are Shea Donnelly and McDonald's. Our planet sponsors are Paul's Ace Hardware and Republic Services. Our asteroid sponsors are the Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce, Flying Flowers Butterfly Garden, Automotive Research, and the NPOA.